The alien sky burned crimson, streaked with the vapor trails of descending war machines. Krella Prime, once a serene outpost brimming with promise, now echoed with screams and the thunder of plasma fire. Ethan Vane, just 10 years old, clutched his stuffed bear tightly as he hid beneath the colony's calm tower. His father had always told him to be brave, but courage felt impossible against the towering Zix-3 walkers striding through the settlement. Ethan's trembling hand activated the comm panel. "This is Ethan," he whispered, his voice shaking. "The aliens, they're here. Someone, please." The screen flared with static. He looked up to see a Zix-3 war machine turning its attention toward the tower. The last thing Ethan saw was the blinding blue flash of a plasma cannon. On board the USS Dauntless, General Marcus Vane stood before a holographic map of the Krella system, his brow furrowed in concentration. The room hummed with activity as officers reported fleet movements and intelligence updates. Marcus listened intently, his steel-gray eyes scanning the projections, weighing each piece of information with the precision of a seasoned strategist. A junior officer hurried into the room, his face pale. "Sir, there's an urgent transmission from Krella Prime." Marcus nodded, motioning to patch it through. The holographic display shifted to reveal a battered and terrified woman, her face streaked with soot. Behind her, the distant crackle of gunfire echoed. "General Vane," she began, her voice trembling. "The Zix-3, they attacked without warning. They killed." Her voice broke. "They killed Ethan." Marcus froze, the words hitting him like a physical blow. The room fell silent as every officer turned to their commander. "No," Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible. He straightened, his hands gripping the edge of the table as he fought to steady himself. "Are you certain?" "Yes, sir," the woman said, tears streaming down her face. "He was under the calm tower when it was hit." Marcus closed his eyes, his jaw tightening. For a moment, he was no longer a general but a father, seeing his son's bright smile, hearing his laughter. The memory twisted into a dagger of pain. Colonel Samantha Drex stepped forward cautiously. "Sir, we need to respond carefully. Grief can cloud judgment." Marcus opened his eyes, now cold and focused. "This isn't grief, Colonel. It's resolve." He turned to the assembled officers. "Prepare the fleet. We're going to Krella Prime." Hours later, Marcus stood alone in his quarters, staring at a small hologram of Ethan. The boy grinned in the image, holding up a model starship they had built together. Marcus reached out, his fingers brushing the light. "I'm sorry, son," he murmured. "I should have been there." A chime interrupted his thoughts. Samantha entered, her expression a mixture of concern and professionalism. "The Council has requested a meeting, sir. They want to discuss the implications of escalating conflict with the Zix-3. Marcus turned to her, his voice sharp. "Implications? They killed my boy, Samantha. They butchered civilians without provocation. What more justification do they need?" "They're afraid, Marcus," she said gently. "A full-scale war could cost millions of lives." Marcus's eyes hardened. "And doing nothing will cost billions. The Zix-3 see compromise as weakness. They'll keep pushing until we push back harder." The council meeting was tense, the air thick with hesitation and bureaucratic caution. Holographic figures of the United Galactic Human Republic's leaders filled the chamber, each voicing concerns. "General Vane," one elder statesman said, his tone measured, "we understand your loss, but this is not the time for rash decisions." "Rash?" Marcus said, his voice low but filled with intensity. "They didn't just kill my son. They attacked a human colony in cold blood. If we don't respond, they'll see it as an invitation to do it again. And next time, it could be one of your colonies." Another council member leaned forward. "What exactly do you propose, General?" Marcus straightened, his voice steady. "We send a clear message. Mobilize the fleet to Krella Prime. Secure the survivors, eliminate any remaining Zix-3 forces, and make it clear that humanity will not be trampled on." The council murmured among themselves, weighing his words. Finally, the chairman nodded. Very well, General. You have our approval. But remember, this is about protecting humanity, not personal vengeance. Marcus's lips pressed into a thin line. Understood. Back on the bridge of the USS Dauntless, Marcus surveyed his crew as they prepared for departure. The hum of engines and the clicking of controls filled the air. Samantha approached, handing him a data slate. The fleet is ready, sir. We'll arrive at Kreller Prime in 12 hours. Marcus nodded. Good. Have the troops briefed and ready for deployment. I want no mistakes. As Samantha turned to leave, she hesitated. Marcus, I know this isn't just about strategy for you. But don't let your anger consume you. Ethan wouldn't want that. Marcus's gaze softened for a brief moment. Ethan would want me to protect humanity. That's what I intend to do. On the Zix-3 flagship, Commander Threx stood before a tactical display, reviewing the aftermath of the attack on Kreller Prime. His lieutenant, Korath, approached, his mandibles clicking in satisfaction. A successful operation, Commander. The humans were caught completely off guard. Threx nodded but remained silent, his thoughts troubled. He hadn't expected the humans to retaliate so fiercely in previous skirmishes, but this attack felt different. The boy's death weighed on him in an unfamiliar way, though he couldn't explain why. Do you believe they'll respond? Korath asked, his tone dismissive. Threx's claws tapped against the console. They will. Humans are unpredictable creatures. And we've given them a reason to strike back. Korath smirked. Let them try. They'll only hasten their extinction. Threx didn't reply, his gaze fixed on the distant stars. As the USS Dauntless prepared to jump to hyperspace, Marcus stood at the forward observation deck, staring out at the void. His son's face lingered in his mind, a reminder of what he had lost and what was at stake. This is just the beginning, he whispered to himself. They'll wish they had never been born. The ship's engines roared to life, and the fleet surged forward, a wave of vengeance heading straight for Kreller Prime. The USS Dauntless burst out of hyperspace, its sleek hull reflecting the glowing greens and blues of Kreller Prime below. The planet's once thriving colony was now a blackened scar of devastation. Swirling clouds of smoke drifted upward, mingling with the alien sky. Surrounding the planet was a blockade of Zix-3 warships, their angular forms bristling with weaponry. On the bridge of the Dauntless, General Marcus Vane stood like a statue, his eyes locked on the tactical display. Status report, he barked. Zix-3 fleet consists of 8 warships, Lieutenant Patel reported. 3 frigates, 2 destroyers, and a carrier-class vessel. They're holding position in low orbit, likely defending what remains of their ground forces. Marcus nodded, his mind already forming a plan. And the survivors? Scattered across the forests below, sir. We're picking up faint distress signals from several groups. Marcus turned to his officers. Our mission is twofold: eliminate the enemy fleet and secure the survivors. The Zix-3 want a war? Let's give them one. The battle began with precision and fury. The Dauntless launched a swarm of fighters that streaked toward the Zix-3 blockade, their thrusters leaving trails of light in the darkness. The alien ships responded, their plasma turrets lighting up like deadly fireworks. Evasive maneuvers! Marcus commanded as the Dauntless shook under enemy fire. The crew moved in perfect coordination, adjusting shields and firing retaliatory bursts. On the tactical display, the human fleet executed Marcus's plan flawlessly. 2 frigates broke formation, using the cover of Kreller's atmosphere to flank the enemy. A coordinated missile strike tore through a Zix-3 destroyer, its hull splitting apart in a fiery explosion. Target the carrier, Marcus ordered. Without it, their fleet coordination will collapse. As the Dauntless unleashed a barrage of railgun rounds at the carrier, Marcus's second-in-command, Colonel Samantha Drex, approached. They're adapting faster than expected, she said, her tone clipped. Marcus didn't take his eyes off the display. Then we'll adapt faster. Tell the frigates to press the advantage. The bridge erupted in cheers as the carrier's engines exploded, sending the massive ship spiraling toward the planet's surface. But the celebration was cut short as a volley of plasma beams from the remaining destroyer slammed into the Dauntless, causing the ship to lurch violently. "Shields at 47%! Patel called out. Marcus grabbed the edge of the console to steady himself. "Redirect auxiliary power to shields. Keep firing. We can't let up." By the time the last 6-3 ship was destroyed, the Dauntless and its fleet bore the scars of battle: charred hulls, flickering lights, and exhausted crews. But the blockade was broken. "Enemy fleet neutralized," Patel confirmed. Marcus allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction before refocusing. "Deploy ground teams. I want every survivor found and evacuated. And secure any remaining Zix-3 tech. They'll regret leaving it behind." On the ground, the air was thick with smoke and the scent of scorched earth. Human soldiers moved through the ruins of the colony, weapons raised as they scanned for hostiles. The Zix-3 had left automated defense drones behind, and firefights erupted in pockets across the settlement. Marcus observed the operation from orbit, his jaw clenched. Every report of another survivor found was a small victory, but it did little to soothe the anger simmering within him. Samantha entered the observation deck, her expression grim. "We've located about 50 survivors so far. Mostly civilians. They're being brought aboard now." Marcus nodded, his gaze still fixed on the planet below. "And the Zix-3? Resistance is scattered but fierce. Our teams are clearing out their defenses." She hesitated before continuing. "Marcus, I know this is personal for you, but we need to think about what comes next. Retaliation is one thing, but if we push too far—" "I know exactly what I'm doing," Marcus interrupted, his voice cold. "This isn't just about Ethan. It's about sending a message. Humanity isn't a species they can walk over." In the dense forests outside the colony, a special reconnaissance unit stumbled upon something unexpected: a concealed Zix-3 communication hub. The alien technology pulsed with an eerie, organic glow, its design unlike anything the humans had seen before. "Command, this is Recon Team Bravo," their leader radioed. "We've found something. Looks like a comm station, but it's broadcasting on a frequency we can't identify." The discovery was relayed to the Dauntless. Marcus immediately saw the potential. "Secure the site and extract whatever data you can," he ordered. The soldiers worked quickly, downloading fragments of Zix-3 transmissions and dismantling key components. One soldier, Corporal Diaz, frowned as he analyzed the data on his portable console. "Sir," Diaz said to his team leader, "these aren't just routine communications. This looks like battle plans, and not just for this system." Back aboard the Dauntless, Marcus reviewed the decrypted data with growing unease. The Zix-3 weren't just targeting Krella Prime. The transmissions outlined plans for a coordinated assault on multiple human colonies. "They're preparing for a full-scale invasion," Marcus said, his voice grim. Samantha leaned over his shoulder, scanning the data. "If this is accurate, we have maybe weeks before they strike again." Marcus's mind raced. He knew what needed to be done, but the weight of the decision pressed heavily on him. "We can't wait for them to bring the fight to us. We hit them first. Hard." Samantha hesitated. "Marcus, if we escalate this, there's no turning back. Are you ready for that?" Marcus met her gaze, his expression resolute. "They already took my son. I won't let them take anyone else." Meanwhile, on the Zix-3 flagship, Commander Threx sat in his dimly lit quarters, his claws tapping rhythmically on the table. The news of the human fleet's victory at Krella Prime had reached him, and it gnawed at his confidence. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Korath entered, his posture brimming with smug confidence. "The humans fought harder than expected, but they're only delaying the inevitable. Our invasion plans are proceeding as scheduled." Threx stared at him, his mandibles clicking softly in thought. "And what if we've underestimated them again? The humans are not as weak as we believed." Korath scoffed. "They're reckless, emotional creatures. Their retaliation at Krella was born of desperation, not strength." Threx's gaze darkened. "Desperation can be a powerful weapon. We must tread carefully. As the Dauntless prepared to leave Kreller Prime, Marcus stood in the hangar, watching as the last of the survivors were brought aboard. A young girl, no older than Ethan, clung to her mother, her tear-streaked face a mirror of the pain Marcus carried. Samantha approached quietly. The survivors are secure. We did everything we could. Marcus nodded, his expression unreadable. But it's not enough. Not yet. He turned to the view of Kreller Prime, the smoldering ruins a stark reminder of what had been lost. In his mind, the next steps were clear. Humanity wouldn't just survive this war, they would make the Zix-3 regret ever starting it. Set course for the rendezvous point, he ordered. This is far from over. The USS Dauntless slipped through the silent void of space, leading a formation of warships toward the Zix-3 stronghold, Ruthless 9. The intelligence recovered from Kreller Prime had been clear. Ruthless 9 was a key staging ground for the Zix-3 invasion fleet. Destroying it would cripple their plans and buy humanity the time it needed to prepare for war. On the bridge, General Marcus Vane stood at the center, his presence commanding. Around him, officers worked with quiet efficiency, monitoring tactical displays and calibrating weapon systems. The tension in the air was palpable. Every person aboard knew what was at stake. Status report, Marcus said, breaking the silence. Lieutenant Patel glanced at her console. We're 10 minutes out from the target, sir. Long-range scans confirm heavy enemy activity. Defensive platforms, orbital mines, and at least 2 capital ships. Colonel Samantha Drex stepped forward, her voice steady but firm. This will be the hardest fight we've faced so far. If we're not careful, we'll lose more than we gain. Marcus nodded, his expression grim but resolute. I understand the risks, but we have no choice. If we don't strike now, the Zix-3 will bring their invasion fleet to Earth's doorstep. This is our chance to stop them before they can take another human life. He turned to the crew. Prepare for battle. This ends today. The first wave of the assault was swift and brutal. As the fleet emerged from hyperspace, Zix-3 defenses sprang to life, saturating the area with plasma bolts and missile salvos. The human ships maneuvered expertly, evading the worst of the fire while returning a storm of railgun rounds and energy bursts. On board the Dauntless, the bridge shook violently as a plasma bolt grazed the hull. Shields at 72%, Patel called out, her voice strained but controlled. Keep us moving, Marcus ordered. Target their orbital platforms and clear a path for the fleet. The ship's main cannons roared, their projectiles tearing through one of the Zix-3 defense stations. Explosions rippled across its structure as debris scattered into the void. Meanwhile, the human fighters engaged swarms of Zix-3 drones, weaving through the chaos in a deadly ballet of light and motion. Communications crackled with shouted orders and status updates, the urgency growing with every passing second. Enemy capital ship moving to intercept, Patel warned. On the tactical display, the massive Zix-3 vessel loomed like a predator. Its sleek, organic design seemed almost alive, its surface bristling with weapons. Marcus's voice was calm but commanding. Divert 2 frigates to flank it. We'll draw its fire. As the Dauntless fired its thrusters, evading a barrage of plasma beams, Marcus turned to Samantha. We can't sustain this for long. Do we have eyes on the ground target? Samantha nodded. Recon drones have pinpointed the enemy command center. It's heavily fortified, but a precision strike team could infiltrate and plant charges to destroy it. Marcus made his decision instantly. Assemble the strike team. I'll lead it myself. Samantha froze, her eyes narrowing. You can't be serious. You're more valuable up here, Marcus. My place is where I'm needed most, Marcus replied. If we take out their command center, their entire operation will fall apart. I won't order someone else to do what I can do myself. Samantha hesitated, then nodded. Fine. But I'm coming with you. Minutes later, Marcus and Samantha joined the strike team aboard a dropship, its interior humming with anticipation. The soldiers checked their weapons and gear, their faces grim but determined. Marcus addressed them, his voice steady. The Zix-3 think they're untouchable here, We're about to prove them wrong. Stick to the plan, watch each other's backs, and we'll get through this. The dropship descended rapidly, skimming the atmosphere of Rexus 9. Anti-aircraft fire lit up the sky, forcing the pilot to perform a series of sharp evasive maneuvers. "Hang on!" the pilot shouted as the ship shook violently. "Brace for impact!" Samantha yelled as the dropship's landing thrusters fired, bringing them down hard but intact in a clearing near the command center. The team disembarked quickly, moving into the dense jungle-like terrain. The air was thick with humidity and the hum of alien fauna. Marcus raised his hand, signaling the team to halt as he spotted a patrol of Zix-3 soldiers ahead. "Take them out quietly," he whispered. 2 soldiers moved forward, their silenced rifles dispatching the aliens with precision. The team pressed on, navigating the treacherous terrain toward their target. The Zix-3 command center was an imposing structure, its spiked architecture glowing with an unnatural light. Automated turrets scanned the perimeter, and squads of alien soldiers patrolled the area. Marcus crouched behind a boulder, studying the defenses. "Drex, you and Diaz take out those turrets. The rest of us will handle the patrols. Once we're inside, plant the charges and fall back to the extraction point." "Understood," Samantha said, signaling Diaz to follow her. The team moved like shadows, eliminating the Zix-3 guards with brutal efficiency. As Samantha and Diaz disabled the turrets, Marcus led the others to the main entrance. Inside, the corridors were a maze of alien technology, pulsating with an organic glow. The team moved swiftly, planting charges at key structural points. 3 more to go, Marcus said, checking the timer on his wrist. Suddenly, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridor. The team ducked into cover as a squad of Zix-3 soldiers appeared. "We don't have time for this," Samantha muttered, raising her rifle. The ensuing firefight was chaotic and brutal. Plasma bolts ricocheted off walls as Marcus and his team fought their way through. Despite the odds, they managed to take down the aliens and plant the remaining charges. "Charges are set," Diaz called out. "We've got 5 minutes. Move!" Marcus ordered, leading the team back toward the extraction point. Outside, the dropship waited, its engines running hot. The pilot waved them in. "Hurry up! We've got company!" Zix-3 drones swarmed overhead, firing relentlessly as the team boarded the dropship. Marcus was the last to climb aboard, firing a final shot before the hatch closed. "Punch it!" he yelled to the pilot. The dropship ascended rapidly, dodging enemy fire as the team braced themselves. Moments later, a series of explosions lit up the sky as the charges detonated, reducing the command center to rubble. "Direct hit!" Samantha reported, her voice triumphant. Back on the Dauntless, the crew erupted in cheers as the news spread. The destruction of the Zix-3 command center had turned the tide of the battle. With their forces in disarray, the remaining Zix-3 ships retreated, abandoning Rexus 9. Marcus stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the tactical display. The mission had been a success, but he knew the war was far from over. "This is just the beginning," he said quietly to Samantha. "We've bought humanity some time, but the Zix-3 won't stop until we make them." Samantha nodded. "Then we'll make them. Together." Marcus allowed himself a rare smile. For the first time since Ethan's death, he felt a glimmer of hope. Humanity had struck back, and they weren't done yet.